Good morning. I don't want that to be there yet. Good morning. How's everybody doing? It's what is it? What is it? Friday? Is it Friday? Yeah, it's Friday. This is the Friday morning coffee, painfully honest tech. I just have been rushing around. I had to take a shower. It'd been a couple of days. It was really necessary. Um, and so Cheyenne, good morning to you. How's everybody doing this morning? How's everybody doing? Sound like I'm from Pittsburgh or something. Yeah, it is. It's been a busy week. Busy week, busy week, busy week. And lots of stuff to discuss in the tech world. I guess, Khalil, good morning. Beyond Narratives, good morning. Yeah, just kind of hanging out and trying to get my brain functioning. I just got this brand new mattress from a company called 8 Sleep. You should check them out. They just sent me this mattress, and it has this covering that goes over it that controls the temperature of the mattress based on your body heat and how hot you want it to be, and then it tracks your breathing and your like heart rate and all this other stuff, and it throws it into an app, and you can put it into Google Fit or into Apple, uh, whatever what is Apple's called? Apple whatever it is. Uh, that's the kind of morning it is so far. And so you can throw it into all that stuff and just do your thing. So it's been pretty interesting. I found out that I went to sleep at a little bit after 2 yesterday morning, and while I thought I woke up at 7, the bed said I woke up at 6:30, which meant I got like 3, not even 4 hours of sleep. Now, this is not an untypical thing for me. This is something that happens. So, I'm, I think I need to adjust my sleep schedule to something that gives me the proper amount of sleep. Steven, good morning. Jeff, good morning. Serge, good morning. Gwendolyn, good morning to you. Yeah, so it's been one of those things. I got my Starbucks though. So whenever I do the morning show, I usually have to take my daughter to school, and then I have to come back and be ready for the show. And she gets started at 9 o'clock. I know, which seems ridiculous to me because like 9 a.m. for a high school student. I mean, I would have killed for that schedule. It was usually like 7 o'clock, but I guess studies now show that later in the morning is better for teens, and so I always start these things, around 9:30, 10 o'clock. Um, and I'm not a very good person at like motivated. Like I get stuck a lot in the morning. I just like sit places and look at things. Like I sat in the car and looked at my phone after I got into the driveway for like 4 songs worth of music. Just looking at my phone. Um, yeah, thinking about getting a new case for my PC. So yeah, Shane, that's the thing. I mean, I would imagine that most places are like that, but our our school district went with the studies that say when they found a bunch of studies that say that high school kids need to sleep later, and it's not as impactful to younger kids. So they switched elementary school and junior high and high school. So yeah. So that's how they do it. But it's like right in the morning. So I kind of want to do these things earlier in the morning, but that would mean I'd have to get up earlier, which as we just covered, I don't really get enough sleep in the first place, and do them so that I could leave by 8:30. I guess I could try and do it. But anyway, that's my morning so far. Um yeah. Oh, thank you. Like that is the Snow White iMac. I found it at a every year the city has this, like they call it like rumble in the ramp or something like that. At this big parking lot in the center of town, they have this like yard sale. People bring stuff and they sell it for cheap. I got that full keyboard, Like it was this was one of the top spec models when it was new. I think it was like $3,000. The original keyboard, the original cable to plug it in, the original mouse, got the whole thing for $10. It still works. It still works, but it's running OS 9, so I can't really do anything. So yeah, it's am I gonna get the AirTags and the iPad Pro? Man, I don't know. I don't know. I have an iPad video coming out either today or tomorrow, with my thoughts about the iPad. And while I'm really impressed with the iPad, I'm impressed that they can put a PC level chip in there, like a Mac, the same chip that comes in the Macs. I'm impressed that they can put that in there, and I think it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy, crazy powerful. However, I just don't until it can run programs that are gonna, like, actually tax its, its capabilities, I don't see the point until so, I saw Rene Ritchie was asking, why do people want macOS on the iPad? A lot of people are going back and forth about this last night, and my whole thing is like, if I can't use the professional programs that I'm using on something that is specced out as a computer that has you can get it with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. If I can't use that with the programs that I already use on my, regular computers, then there's no reason for me to buy that iMac. And if there's no reason for me to buy that iMac as somebody who works professionally with graphics and audio and all that kind of stuff, then there's no reason for anybody to buy that iMac. There's not enough space, and there's just not enough that you can do without having to find a ton of workarounds to make it a compelling buy for the majority of people who need to do that kind of work. And that for me is very frustrating. I want to be able to use Final Cut Pro. I want to be able to use Logic Pro. I want to be able to use like, all the stuff that I use regularly. I don't want to have to find a workaround if I want to go to the iPad. So if the iPad is going to be a comparable device to all of the other computers that Apple's putting out, then why won't it? Why shouldn't it have Mac OS? And I know that the argument is that Apple likes to keep everything segmented. Apple wants to have things, the iPad is the iPad, the laptop is the laptop. I get it. But at this point, if you look at the iPad, the MacBooks that just came out, and the iMac that's coming out, there is almost nothing different internally about any of them. That they're all the same thing. They're all the same thing. They're all M1 chip. It's the same chip. One's not underclocked or overclocked or anything like that. The new iMac is basically an iPad on a stand, and the MacBooks are like laptop versions of the iMac, or the iMac is the non-keyboard version of the laptops or whatever. They're the same things. They're the same things. So why have this spurious sort of distinction between them when you've made them the same? That's the thing I don't understand. If you've made them the same, then why not just put Mac OS on all of them so that people can make a choice? Because it's not like people are choosing the iPad because it's an iPad, right? If you wanted to choose an iPad because it's an iPad, you would buy an iPad, one of those iPad Airs or a $300 iPad, right? Because those are the machines that, do what iPads do. But if you're going to put a desktop computer level chip inside of an iPad and give it up to 16 gigabytes of RAM and give it up to 2 terabytes of storage, then you're making it a computer, and you should allow people to use it as such without having to do all this workaround BS. So that's my take on it. As I see people complaining, I just don't understand what the disconnect is. it's not an iPad anymore if you put it in the same category specs wise as all of the other computers. It's a computer without a keyboard with the touchscreen. The other iPads are still iPads, but that one is not. And so, as we were talking about the other night, wait until WWDC. Maybe there'll be something from WWDC um, that'll show us why it makes sense to have that. Maybe they'll show some compatibility with other stuff. But without a roadmap, I don't see any reason to get all like. I don't see a reason for anybody to buy it if they're buying it for the power that it has. I mean, and if you're not buying it for that power, what are you buying it for? Can anybody in the chat tell me why you would buy an iMac that powerful if you weren't going to use it as a professional machine? I know that, and this is taking into account that yes, there are graphic artists that use the iPad as a professional machine all the time. Also, Greg Joswiak says no plans to merge iMac and iPad. Well, okay, that's where'd it go? There we go. Yeah, mini LED. I mean, mini LED is going to be cool for sure, but I don't know that it's worth spending the premium. I mean, you're talking about a 12.9-inch screen. I don't know that it's worth the premium after the new car smell wears off to pay extra for the mini LED. It's going to look great, but unless you're like somebody who professionally takes advantage of that high color fidelity, then I don't see the point in paying the money. Certainly people can pay the money. Certainly people will pay the money. Maybe I'll pay the money. I don't know. I have a 2018 iPad Pro 12.9-inch that I use for light computing, with the Magic Keyboard, and I I watch YouTube videos on it and read books. That's it. Jonathan brings up the point that the 11-inch will do all the things that the 12.9 will, except for the mini LED screen. I started with the 11 and ended up going to the 12 because I was going to use it as a sort of bridge device. Like I was going to use it for the computing things that I could do, and then so I wanted the bigger screen, and I haven't regretted the bigger screen. I had the first version of the 12.9, which was a much bigger device, and that first version was really cumbersome. But I found since they changed the design and it's squared off and it's smaller with smaller bezels, it's not as cumbersome as it was when it was larger with larger bezels. So I don't know, and I think that people getting dogmatic about what an iPad should be and all that kind of stuff is just kind of unfortunate and sort of shows bias in a way that is unfortunate because they're just touting the party line and not willing to say, at least in my opinion, not willing to say, hey, this doesn't this doesn't act like an iPad anymore, so we should make it something different. So that's one of my problems with all of the devices that Apple put out in this event is that I really don't see the market for a 24-inch computer in 2021. I just don't. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's going to be in schools, it's going to be here, there, and everywhere else. Schools buy Mac Minis if they buy anything, and they buy cheap monitors. I know that for a fact. I mean, I've been involved in school district politics and know all about budgets, and that's what they buy. They don't buy $1,300-$1,400 computers. So they'll buy the Mac Minis and be a lot cheaper. And maybe they'll be in offices, sure, but I don't know that I see a lot of enterprise use for like a Necco wafer pack of computers. You walk into any office and you'll see black and gray computers. That's just how it is. And I don't think that they made these computers with these colors for that market. So I tell me if I'm wrong. I don't see a market for a for a 24-inch computer. People are telling me that the 21.5-inch monitor or iMac was the most popular iMac. I find that really hard to believe. I have not seen a 21.5-inch iMac out in the wild ever, ever. I only ever see 27-inch iMacs. I mean, and I'm not going into people's homes and stuff and looking at their computers, but um, these days, no. And Michael, here's the thing. Just having been in there might be some college use, although the port selection makes it a little bit more questionable. One thing that I know about a lot of colleges are requiring students to come with their own computers. And so a lot of students are buying the computer that they're going to use for the 4 years of college. And no student is buying an iMac. It's just not practical for a student to buy a desktop computer. So I think ultimately, if this computer were more powerful or had a better specs lineup or gave something different than a 24-inch monitor and a selection of colors, then I could make an argument for this iMac. But I don't see it. I don't see it. And most students buy MacBooks. Most students buy MacBooks, and now that they're cheaper, all students are all students are going to buy MacBook Airs if they're like photography students or something like that, where they maybe need a little bit more heavy lifting. Maybe they get MacBook Pros, but I don't see students buying these iMacs, and I don't see photography places buying them either. I don't see photography departments buying them because they're 24 inches, which isn't really the greatest like size for doing that high resolution work. So I just don't see a market. I don't see a market for these new iMacs beyond the aesthetic market. Maybe like Bob says, the beautiful Gen Z people. I don't know. Maybe they'll be wildly popular, and of course I'll be wrong. But looking, spec for spec on paper, trying to figure out which is the most practical and which do you get the most computer for your money. I look at the MacBooks. I look at them, I look at the MacBooks and I see that the MacBooks are no different other than form factor, and you can get higher amounts of storage at lower prices. And the three models that they advertise for the iMac, $1299, 256 gigabytes of storage, and only 2 ports. $1499, 2 more ports, but 256 gigabytes of storage. $1699, 4 ports, 512 gigabytes of storage. So to me, the only one worth buying is the 512. And I had a lot of people in the comments of my video yesterday talking about how 256 is the perfect amount. I'm sorry, I have used 256 gigabyte laptops, and 256 is not enough for anyone. I don't, it's like you put anything on there. Once you get your system and then your programs and stuff, you're going to have like maybe 60 or 70 or 80 maybe gigabytes of storage left. It's not enough. And I'm really surprised to see people making excuses for it and trying to explain it away and try and somehow like go back and retcon the fact that it's never been enough. See, even with iCloud, I don't know, man. Like I I use iCloud too, but I I've never not run into a pretty big problem uh with a 256 gigabyte iMac. Like when they used to have when the iMacs had SD card readers, I got like a 256 gigabyte SD, like little SD card that was made to fit in the slot so I could have another 256 gigabytes of storage. So I, I really think that, and this is the one place where PCs still have it over Macs, is that you're not going to get less than 512. A lot of times, if you're not looking at the bargain basement PC laptops, or then you're getting 512 SSD plus maybe like a 3.5 inch SSD, or you're getting more than that in some configuration. Uh, I just 256 that can't be upgraded is too little. It just is. It just is. And I ain't buying no Surface. Who buys a Surface? The thing is, like, Microsoft screwed up the Surface so bad. The Surface Pro was a really cool device. And a lot of my students, because they're med students and they have to take tons of notes, and they wanted a computer and they wanted something that they could take notes on, they bought the Surface Pros, and the hardware on the Surface Pros was such crap. I didn't know a single student who didn't have some hardware related issue with their Surface Pro at some point in their time with it. Early on too. Headphone jacks stopped working, charging ports stopped working, screen stopped working, like all kinds of crazy stuff. Microsoft had a very good product there. If they would have supported it with very good hardware, they would have had a real shot at blowing the iPad out of the water back, whenever that was, like 7 or 8 years ago, but they didn't. So to me, like, it just doesn't make sense to put out a desktop computer with 256 gigabytes of storage on 2 of the 3 models that you offer. And I could not in good conscience recommend to anybody that they buy anything but the $1,700 model. So yeah, it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating because, again, this iMac it's like a show pony. It doesn't really have a reason to exist other than to it's the same thing as the laptops. It's the same thing as the iPad. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. Maybe they have a surplus of 256 gigabyte drives. Maybe. I don't know. They the thing is, like, this to me is kind of like when they used to keep putting out 16 gigabyte iPhones, and who wants a 16? Nobody wanted a 16 gigabyte iPhone, but they just kept putting them out because it helped them reach like a price point. And Apple, I've been a big Apple fan for a long time, and they, sometimes they get on my good side, sometimes they get on my bad side. And right now I'm not really understanding. So hold on. What's Michael saying here? Don't forget you can upgrade the storage on the $1,299 model to okay. I see. That's the thing. I didn't like. They don't let you spec it out. Like it's not available for pre-order, so they don't let you go and like add anything to it. So I hadn't seen that anywhere confirmed 100% totally. So I was going on the assumption of what was on their website. I was reading what was on their website, and based on that, and you're probably right. You're probably right. Can you spec it out to 2 terabytes though? Probably not. But for some reason, you can spec the iPad out to 2 terabytes. Can you spec it out to 16 gigabytes of storage or RAM? I don't know, but you can do that with the iPad. See, it's none of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. And the thing is, like, having lived with portable SSDs now, and I have a portable Samsung SSD that cost me like $125 or something, and it's a terabyte. It's annoying. It's really annoying to have all this stuff hanging off your computer or hanging off of the docking station that you had to buy because your computer doesn't have any way to plug anything into it. I mean, I've got the CalDigit T3 Thunderbolt 3 dock, and it's great, but it sits at the back of my desk. It's not easily accessible. So if I want to plug anything into that, it's a whole pain in the ass. And that's the thing about these devices is they don't seem they seem, again, somewhat consumer hostile. It's just really bizarre. Michael says I did a whole rant video on how they're confusing the customer by not showing all the options right now. Okay. Yeah. So you can spec out the $12.99 model but see, this is what doesn't make sense to me. Like, why can you spec out the $12.99 model all the way up to those specs? And yes, you still only have 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports. Why would you want to spend all that money on a computer that that only had 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, which means it only has one USB port, one USB bus, which means you can only plug in so many things to it. So it's not even a professional machine. Why would you want to do that? And then look at this, but there's no difference in the chips that are in any of these machines. So it's not like, oh, in the $16.99 you get an i7 instead of an i5. It's not like that anymore. They're all the same chip. So by the time you spec out the $12.99 with 2 terabytes of storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM, it's more expensive than the $16.99. So all of these things are crossing over in ways that don't make any sense. It's just really, really, really confusing. And Jonathan, don't mess with me this morning, man. Oh my. Yeah. Do they really? Because do they really limit the chips? Because I didn't see anything about that. Didn't hear anything about that. There's nothing that says anything about that on the website. So unless somebody can show me a confirmation from someplace, then I don't know. So Michael says that the $14.99 is a bad buy if you're upgrading the storage. Get the $16.99 model at that point and the 4 Thunderbolt ports. Okay, that's a good point. I mean, $14.99 would become $16.99 if you upgraded to. I imagine it would become $16.99 if you upgraded anyway. So, the base level has 7 GPU cores instead of 8. I guess I guess I wasn't really paying attention because I wouldn't buy that if somebody paid me to buy it. So, but okay, point proven. But when it comes to the ones that I think people should actually buy, they're exactly the same computer, and it's exactly the same chip that's in the iPad, right? There's no limitation on the GPU cores in the iPad, is there? And same thing with, I think, does the MacBook Air has this doesn't have any limitations compared to the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini doesn't have any limitations compared to the MacBook Air or the MacBook Pro, and the iPad doesn't have any limitations. So I don't get it. You know, they might as well just put out one model that starts at $12.99, and then you can spec it up from there. You know, why all this nickel and dime confuse the consumer stuff? Just put it out and make it easy for people to choose. Make it easy for people to choose. That's all that makes any sense. Is this the Apple Hipsters channel? It is now that you're here, buddy. Thanks so much for stopping by. The MacBook Air has 7 GPU cores. Okay, I hadn't heard that either. Because if you go, okay, here's my thing, and I've complained about this. I've complained about this before, but if you go on YouTube and you watch any MacBook Air video, everybody who makes a video on the MacBook Air talks about how it is like it is a supercomputer. And as many videos as I've watched about the MacBook Air, and that's the only one of the MacBooks that I didn't purchase and try out. I don't remember once anybody making a video that said of the videos that I saw. I'm not saying that somebody else didn't say it. Of the videos that I saw, if that was said, it was glossed over. And let's be honest, losing one core of GPU performance is not that big a deal. It's not that big a deal. I mean, the only change from the 2018 iPad Pro to the 2020 iPad Pro was they activated that one additional GPU core and put another lens on it. Yeah. To me, it's a specious distinction between models. Like, are they saving money by not having that one core activated? It's still in there. So is it a power saving thing? No, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And this is where I start to get frustrated with Apple, because they're back to sort of nickel and diming and all this different stuff that then becomes like really confusing for anybody who wants to buy one. I mean, I talk about this stuff all day, every day, and it's almost impossible for me to keep it straight in my head. Now, of course, I am an old man. Maybe I just don't have the memory capacity. Maybe I need another core of processing power. Maybe I got the base model brain. So Mr. Deja Vu King says, for the first time, I am considering buying a Mac instead of a PC. Problem is Apple's products reliability isn't good, and the repair policy is shady as F. What? Where? The one thing that Apple is number one at is product reliability and customer service. Number one overall of anyone. So I don't think you have to worry about product reliability. I mean, this Mac came out in 2006 and it still works. Okay. I have a 2006 Mac Pro that still works. Like, product reliability in Apple is not a problem. As well as repair. They don't let you repair it yourself. You can complain about that, which I get where people are coming from, but I don't really like. If it's all soldered onto the board, if it's all, I'd rather somebody who's qualified to deal with that crap than like take it apart and screw it up myself. I can fix a car. I can build a PC. I can do a lot of things, but I don't need to fix my MacBook. So the repair policies are great, man. You buy yourself. I'm telling you, the only extended warranty I will ever recommend to anyone is Apple Care. Apple Care is 3 years of guaranteed whatever happens, you get it fixed or replaced. And so there is nothing at all wrong with either aspect of Apple's business. They're number one in customer satisfaction. And I think the average lifespan of a Mac is somewhere in the half a decade lifespan, if not more. And so, if that's not enough, then I don't know. I don't know I don't know. I don't know what's enough. If 5 years of like trouble-free use is not enough, then I guess, yeah. Thinking Fox says, I'd take my broken Mac if I ever bought one to Louis Rossmann to repair. I wouldn't let Louis Rossmann close to any of my machines. Is he actually like a certified Apple technician? I don't think he is. But I don't know. I don't pay enough attention to Louis Rossmann. Maybe it would be fun to sit there and listen to him bitch and complain for the hour that it takes him to fix it or whatever. But otherwise, I wouldn't give Louis Rossmann my business if somebody paid me. So if Louis Rossmann is a certified Apple technician, let me know, and I will eat my words. But yeah. See, Bob's got a good point. Bob's running a 20-year-old IBM ThinkPad with never a hiccup. Now, of course, Bob, that IBM ThinkPad was the best of the best in the PC world at the time that you bought it. Buy yourself a Lenovo ThinkPad, and you won't get 20 years out of it, unfortunately. It's an unfortunate truth. It's an unfortunate truth, but yeah. Let me see what Alejandro is saying. It's not about Apple repairing products yourself. Their repair policies make it difficult for third-party repairers to repair the device, even if they get the parts. Well, here's the thing. Would you take your 2021 brand new computer-operated car to an uncertified mechanic down the street from your house? Would you take your MacBook to the 20-year-old who set up a kiosk at the mall? No. Why would you do that? They want to make sure that they are providing the proper level of service. I mean, any jackwad with an iFixit kit can open a MacBook, right? Any jackwad with a $15 iFixit kit can open a MacBook. That does not qualify them to be able to do thing number one to it. And I wouldn't want them to. I paid a shit ton of money for the MacBook. I want it repaired by somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. I don't know why that's a problem. If they're a certified Apple technician and they are a third-party person, then fine. But if they're not, then I want somebody who's certified to work on that machine, working on that machine, touching those parts, putting them in. That's all there is to it. I don't know why that's such a big deal. Why is it such a big deal that you can't take it to the 20-year-old with a kiosk in the mall to get it fixed? I just don't understand. You're paying thousands of dollars for this thing. Okay, so we have confirmation here. Hugo says Louis is mostly repairs out of warranty MacBooks, and no, he's not an authorized repair shop. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, it's great that there is somebody who can do that. and who does do that and obviously makes a decent living doing that. Well, he makes a decent living yelling and complaining on YouTube about it. But are there any mods in here? If there are, please silence the person that's spamming. So, Apple certification does not mean they know how to repair their devices. Apple is the one who gives it. Watch a video with Rossmann. He explains where the problems are. I've watched Rossmann's videos. I think he's got a bone to pick with Apple, and he's a biased party. I mean, I know that Apple hasn't done everything perfect, but Rossmann has a vendetta with Apple for some reason over this issue. And he has his way of thinking. I don't agree with it. I mean, at some point, you have to accept that that there are things that you can trust. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not somebody who won't trust anyone. I mean, if I want to get my Mac serviced, I'm sending it to Apple. Okay? They guarantee their work. If it comes back and it doesn't work, I send it back to them. They make it work. Okay? The certified technician thing is like, okay, if that's not good enough, then just send it to Apple and get it fixed. You know what you're getting into when you buy an Apple device, right? You buy an Apple device and you know you're getting into something that is not user upgradable, that is not user repairable. It says so all over the place, and everybody should know it when they buy the computer. So why is everybody so butthurt when their Mac doesn't work anymore and they can't, open it up themselves to fix it or take it to the 20-year-old in the kiosk? You know what you're getting into when you buy an Apple. You do. Anybody who didn't do their homework. And if you're not willing to accept that, then there are other choices like buying a PC. I'm not an Apple apologist. I just think that this is a cake and eat it too situation for the consumers who want to have, the machine, but also want to do what they want with it without abiding by the rules that Apple sets out. I mean, if you don't want to follow the rules that Apple sets out, if you don't want to abide by their policies, then don't buy a Mac. Don't do it. Right? I mean, that's it just So Bob says Apple is into replacement, whereas Louis Rossmann is into board level repair. Apple's into replacement because Apple is it's a business. It's a business. That's part of that's part of what they want to do. They want to sell new stuff. I mean, we can argue all day long about whether or not that's ethical but it's the way that it is. It's the they're not going to, if they can fix your computer, they'll fix it. But a lot of times the cost that it would take to fix your computer would also be the cost or close to it of buying a new computer. So I understand where Louis Rossmann is coming from. I understand the right to repair stuff. I just think that if you're going to buy an Apple device, you better be educated about what it takes to and what the rules are in terms of doing that. So all right, Drone Lord says that there are techies who tinker and there are people who just want to use their technology. The tinkerers are, I mean, if you want to tinker with Macs, build yourself a Hackintosh. That'll keep you busy for a long, long time, just trying to get it to work. But the thing is, and people who like to tinker, people who want to upgrade themselves, people who want a little bit more freedom, the majority of those people buy PCs. And one of the big reasons that they buy PCs is for that reason. They want to, they want to be able to do that. Hold on, let me read here. Michael said, "Did you hear that they're now extending AppleCare to more than 3 years, essentially as long as you're paying the monthly payments?" That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I mean, I just paid the monthly payments on my my iPhone SE, and it was $4. So it's cheaper than this stupid cup of coffee. Yeah, Retethered. I kind of ranted on this already. The iPad Pro has sort of like jumped the shark a little bit. There was somebody asked a question back here. I'm trying to find it. Oh, Steven. Yes, I saw the podcast. What are your thoughts on podcast subscriptions that Apple announced? Is this something you will look into? Sure. I need to know more about how it's going to work because usually, and we talked a little bit about this on Tuesday, but usually when you offer a subscription service, you give them early access, you give them additional content, you give them something. And for a lot of people, creating additional stuff is more difficult. Now, if you agree to make an ad-free version for the subscription, then fine. I can see that. It's not too hard to provide an ad-free version of a podcast. You just export it with the ads, and then you take the ads out and you export it again. That's, it's not that hard to do. So we'll see. Lauren says, "I hope they'll announce Logic Pro and Final Cut Pro for the iPad at WWDC." So do I. I've been waiting for it for years, but if they don't also launch some kind of file system support, then it's almost pointless, because trying to find, a lot of times a Final Cut Pro project, a Logic Pro project, will have dozens and dozens and dozens of files attached to it. And if you don't have a file system by which you can easily get to those things, then it's not going to be that much of it's not going to be that much of a change. I mean, because you can use LumaFusion is basically Final Cut Pro. It's maybe a little bit less powerful by design, but it's basically Final Cut Pro. So, and GarageBand is just like a dumbed down version of Logic. So you can do those things already. Those things are there to be done, and people do them. Like Travis MCP edits on an iPad. I think Jeff El Jefe Reviews might. I'm trying to remember. I know there are several people that I know that edit on the iPad Pro and they love it. But without the file system, you are finding ways to work around. And if you're working on big professional projects that are going to require all kinds of access to the files, to the file structure, and bringing things in and dropping things out and all that, then subscriptions are essentially a way to support the creator, like Patreon and other services, from what they've said. That, I mean, I'd be all into that. I mean, if it's $2, just like membership here for the Painfully Honest Tech channel, membership for the Painfully Honest Tech channel is just $2. $2. And with those $2, okay, so I've been doing some research about how live streams affect my channel, or people's channels in general. And I can't keep these live streams live. So I'm going to do what I did on Patreon while the Patreon was still live. I mean, it's still there, but it's dead. I'm going to create a live stream playlist. And that live stream playlist will be available to anyone who pays the $10. $2. You can pay $10. or $15, but $2 is the minimum to get access to that. And memberships, okay, memberships matter because they help. It's proof of concept, right? It's what is it? What's the confirmation bias? The more people that pay $2 to be members, then the more people say, "Hey, those people had that funny wizard hat, so I'll pay my $2." You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? But I'm a little too fired up to. By the way, I haven't yet mentioned Restream, the sponsor of these live streams here these past couple of months. My sponsorship with Restream lasts one more month. The contract that I signed with them lasts one more month, and I would very much like to continue that contract. But they need me to get more people to go over and try Restream. Not too many people have been going over to try Restream, and so if you are interested in the live streaming, I do encourage you to check out Restream. Restream is what I'm using right here. I really, really do like it. I wouldn't have asked them to sponsor if I didn't like it. I mean, the interface is great. The chat feed is great. I really like the fact that I'm streaming to like 7 different places right now. It's all stuff that you can do on Restream. Restream.io/join/PHT. Link in the description. Please, if you're interested and you want to support the channel, if that's something that you need to get going, then I implore you. Just because, my family's got to eat. I'm going to be making some Restream specific videos coming up that hopefully will help that performance. But yeah, if you're going to get into the live stream game, or you're already doing it but you want to see what it's like on the other side, check out Restream. Use my code. I really would appreciate it. So now that that's over and everybody flocked to the buttons. So Orbit says it's to support creators, great, but how much of a cut will Apple take? I'm sure it's a good percentage. Okay, here's the way it works. Apple takes 30% the first year and then 15% after that, according to Andrew Edwards, who knows just about everything there is to know about Apple. So that's that. I mean, YouTube takes 30% of all membership stuff, and that percentage doesn't go down. So compared to YouTube memberships, that's a better deal. But yeah, I will definitely look into it. If it's something that I can do without like having to, not that I wouldn't want to provide more content for people. It's just a matter of like, how much content can one person create? So I would want to do a good job. So that's that. Where were we? We were talking about. Oh yeah, we were talking about subscriptions. iPad with the 200 characters I have, that can happen. Okay. I'm just catching up. So what about AirTags? Yesterday was the day when everybody released their videos on AirTags. And of course, AirTags seem like the best thing since sliced bread at this point. This is the time that I hate YouTube. This is the time that I hate being a part of YouTube. This is the time that I just hate everything about it. Because, the companies that are really good at it, like Apple, just like crank up that hype machine. And I just get really frustrated because AirTags are nothing. They're a little dot that you can put on stuff to be able to find it. It's not the moon landing. But you wouldn't know it to see YouTube all yesterday, to see Twitter all yesterday. Everything is all AirTags. Who gives a flippin' flip about AirTags? Maybe I'm in the wrong business. Does anybody care about AirTags? Anybody out there? Anybody? Anybody? AirTags? No? Anybody gonna buy the $400 Hermes AirTag keychain? You put a $30 tag into a $400 keychain. Like if I had a $400 keychain, I would not be at risk of losing it. I would know where that freaking keychain was all the time. All the time. Yeah. AirTags are Tile clones. I mean, I would hate to be Tile right now. It's not like their business was booming, but now they're just dead in the water. Airsoft. Yeah, they all came out. They all came out at the same time, 2 minutes apart, and they had the purple iPhones too. See, this is the thing that is very frustrating. It used to be nobody got Apple stuff early. Everybody got Apple stuff at the same time. And that to me seemed the best way to do it. Because then like you bust your ass, you go get your device, you get home, you make a video, you get it done quick, and you have the chance to compete with some of these other with the big boys and girls, right? But now Apple has selected these people who get the devices early, and they're doing the same thing that Samsung does and everybody else does, which is, they give early access to the people that they choose. And then those people all, like, I think the embargo lifted probably at 8:00 yesterday morning, and everybody just had their video set to go live, and suddenly it's AirTags all day. And then it's, purple iPhone. And maybe I sound like I'm a little bit of sour grapes, but Apple is never going to give me anything. Apple is never going to select me as one of their anointed, and we all know the reason why. I mean, I'm not the easiest dude to stoner. Tile is for your bong, okay? You super glue it to your bong so that you can find it. And it's also for your like little cigar box for your stash, so you can find your stash when you're stoned. Anyway, Apple's never going to give me anything. And the thing that annoys me is that means that by doing my job the way that I want to do it, I'm at a disadvantage over people who are willing to or not willing to, over people who do their thing in a way that is more conducive to Apple's approval. How's that? Is that like political enough? Was I good there? Yeah. So that's why one of the reasons why I loved Apple was they were. Renee is one of those people who is, very, very, very much. I mean, Renee's very good at his job. Renee's a journalist. Renee covers Apple. Okay, so I'm not like throwing shade at Renee particularly, or anybody else for that matter. I mean, they do their thing, and it happens to be conducive to Apple's approval, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I don't want to be put at a disadvantage if I'm also. But hey, that's the way the game's played. If I want to be a jackass, then I guess I have to cover Apple with all the rest of the unanointed. Marquez Brownlee always says that it doesn't matter who's first. Of course, he's always first because he gets the stuff first. But it's easy to say that. It's easy to say that when you are one of the ones that gets the stuff first. Oh, I'm acerbic this morning. I didn't wake up acerbic. I'm gonna blame you people. Uh, oh, they need to add tracking to AirPods. Um, well, with the AirPods, I mean, you can do the Find My with the AirPods. Unfortunately, I think it's only the case though, isn't it? So if you lost like an individual AirPod, it doesn't matter. So, um, Laura says, excuse me. I knew MKBHD would have it. I was surprised he didn't have the new iMac. He does have the new iMac. He does have it. The embargo for reviewing it hasn't lifted yet. They all have the new iMac. They all do. Guaranteed. Maybe not every single one of them. Like, I don't know if Renee has one, but I do know Renee has gotten computer devices early. Marquez got like his Mac Pro early, or a Mac Pro early, which he then had to send back and order one. So they all have the devices. They just can't talk about them until the marketing PR embargo lifts. So that's how it works. Yeah, the thing is, like, I do know that most of these people, and I actually had a conversation with Renee Ritchie about this. Uh, they have to send back the one that they get sent to them, but then they buy their own. So, I don't know if they've done their videos yet. I mean, the fact that they get them early is a good thing for their content, potentially, because they will have, had plenty of time to use the machine and get to know it and be able to tell us the good and the bad. Unfortunately, not many of the people who get these devices early ever really take much time to focus on the bad. And when they do, it's usually as like a well, then there's this. So it is a potentially really good thing to have early access to a device so that you can know what the hell you're talking about whenever you get to the review. But not many people actually say anything negative. Some people aren't negative people. Fine. You're in the wrong business. Yeah. But Jonathan brings a good point in here, and I think it's an important point. I probably sound a little butthurt right now, and that's not my intention. I just get frustrated sometimes. But Jonathan's point, but just my opinion. But if you're passionate about something, people will listen, tell a story, and they'll stick around, be yourself, and they'll come back for more. I think you're absolutely right. I think that's something that is, not often talked about, because what happens is YouTube is a game that runs like, the cycle is just really fast, right? So if you can't play the get there first game, then you have to play a different game. And that's where, Jonathan's point comes in. The people who don't get early access to these devices and still want to have conversations about them, it behooves them to have something to say and to be passionate about it, and to then people will want to come back. I mean, that's what I hope I do with the things that I do. I don't know if I do it. Sometimes I think I make more people mad than not. But, when is the embargo lifted? Well, pre-orders aren't until the 30th. So I would imagine the 29th. Yeah. The 29th, because then people will be chomping at the bit to get those pre-orders in because they'll have been hyped up by the previously approved hype machine bots. At a certain point, like I know these people. I like these people. Everybody who does the YouTube thing as individuals, they're great people. I don't have any problem with any of them. We might do our jobs differently. I don't have any problem with what they do with their content. But it gets harder and harder to be nice about some of the BS that goes on in this business. And having been in this for long enough, having been to the some events and having seen how the sausage is made, some people are more comfortable building relationships with manufacturers than others. I am not comfortable building relationships with manufacturers. I'm not comfortable building relationships with marketing departments or PR people or anything like that. Mostly because I'm not comfortable building relationships with anyone. It's just my nature. But I also don't trust the source. I don't trust the source. And, maybe that's because I grew up in the 70s and the 80s when, for the first time ever, people started to mistrust the government. But I don't trust the source. So if I'm going to review the products, I'd rather review them without any interference, any personal relationships and that kind of thing. And that's just the way that I work. Other people work differently. They do, and that's fine. Bob brings up the point that Renee and Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, are the gold standard for objective reviews. They are. I mean, Renee, I think admittedly so by himself, will lean hard toward Apple's good side. But he will say where they need to improve. Michael Fisher is the master of the subtle knife. Like in between, like all the good looking video and everything like that, and and saying things in that voice that he has, he gets it right in the ribs sometimes. He just sticks it right in there, and I that's one of the reasons why he's one of my favorite people. That's one of the reasons why I really like how he does his business. And so, yeah, Flossie Carter is another example. I mean, maybe, Flossie's got his own style. All these guys have their own style. All these ladies and gentlemen have their own style. But yeah, Flossie Carter will make a 45-minute video where he'll tell you everything that there is to know. And a lot of people love that about him. I mean, so he's built, if there's anybody who's like an OG tech YouTuber still, I mean, Flossie Carter has not upgraded his camera to a $65,000 Red Dragon or whatever. He still makes his videos on a card table with some kind of like leopard print curtain over it, and no A-roll, all just B-roll. And he does it, and he's one of the only people who could ever pull that off because his charisma, his personality, everything that he brings to the table is so spot on and comes across no matter whether you can see his face or not, that people watch those reviews, even though there's not anything technologically about his reviews that, that are there to impress you. Right. I understand why people get into cinematography and want their videos to get really, really fancy and want to up their game. I mean, if you're somebody into tech and you're a tech nerd and you start to fool around with cameras, it only makes sense that after a while you're gonna start to want to improve and want to see what the better thing is and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and he has the cat. I mean, the cat does help. That's true. That's true, Bob. So Hugo brings up a very good point, and this is a question for the ages. My channel started out as a review channel. But I don't put too much distance between my opinion and like my review. Some people do their reviews and they try and be as like balanced as they can. I put my opinion into it, but one of the places where I've run into problems is that I'll put out a really strong opinion piece about a device, right? Like I did with the iMac yesterday, like I'm going to do with the iPad either later on today or tomorrow, whenever it gets out. And then I'll, if I turn around and review them and I say, well, they're good devices, people get mad. Same thing happened with iPhones, back a couple of years ago. And my opinion has nothing to do with whether or not like the iMacs or the iPads or the iPhones or anything like that are going to be good devices. They're going to be good devices. But my question is like, are they the right devices? Are they the right devices in the right places? And that's the question that I always ask. So, but it is difficult to be like a commentary channel and then turn around and do reviews. And I've struggled with that. I mean, maybe I should just be a commentary channel and not do reviews. I don't know, because it does create issues. So that's a good question though, Hugo. I appreciate it. So C. Wayne says, you do a good job of reviewing. One of your videos I ran into first was your review on the Razer Phone 2. Thought you did a great job. Didn't buy the phone, but I appreciated your content. I appreciate that, man. I do. Yeah, that was also before I really did very much like of the commentary stuff. And now that I do the commentary stuff, it becomes more difficult. I used to put my opinions in the videos. Hey, my cousin's here. Hey, Sydney. Completely understand. You have your own opinion, doing great and very successful. Thank you very much, Sydney. It's great to see you. She's my cousin's daughter, which I think makes her my second cousin. I come from West Virginia, so I should know these things. But yeah. Tech Nerd says, I personally prefer your unscripted takes. How do you know they're unscripted? You mean like this one where I'm like losing my mind? Scott, thank you, man. Jonathan says, take the Apple approach to marketing with the things you do and people will follow. Painfully honest reviews. Don't conform with the status quo. Cover the tech things. Yeah, burning questions about. Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those things where I think where my channel started and what the base content of my channel was when I started and what I do now, like I look at Rich from Review Tech USA. Rich, Rich, he doesn't review anything, although the name of his channel is Review Tech USA. I don't remember the last time I saw him review anything, but he does definitely put his opinions out there. And I look at the way that he does his channel, and I think it's not that far away from the way that I do my channel. So maybe there's something to learn there. I'm not sure. Michael Pepper says, I don't like calling them reviews because people think I'm going to talk about specs and tell them to buy it or not. I'd rather talk about my experiences with it and who I think it's for. Yeah, that's a good point. And I realized at a certain point that when I did reviews, I didn't necessarily, I didn't necessarily like, let me see, what's the easiest way to say this? I didn't necessarily tell people, yes, you should buy it or no, you shouldn't buy it. I did exactly what you're saying. And sometimes I've wondered from a review standpoint if that's not like doing, well, not doing a disservice to, but not giving the audience what they want. Because a lot of people come and they want to be told what to buy, right? And I don't feel like I ever did that. I tried actually yesterday with the iMac. I did. I said, unless like if you don't have these needs, then yeah, okay, but it's a um, somewhat compromised device. Rich is a very special man. That is true. Fat Produce. Is it harder to monetize on YouTube or on Twitch? I mean, I think once you grow a Twitch audience, the ways that you can monetize are much more on the surface and much easier to, and the culture of Twitch, like, you know, I can hardly, YouTube memberships are hard to push because they weren't a part of YouTube forever, and not many people get in on it, right? But subscriptions and all that kind of stuff on Twitch have been there for just about ever. So there's that. And there's just a lot of different ways that you can support a creator on Twitch that you can't on YouTube. Twitch, however, at least for maybe at the higher levels, but Twitch doesn't have like ad sharing the way that YouTube does. So, it's a little bit, right now it's easy. The answer to the question is right now it's easier for me to monetize on YouTube because that's where my audience is. However, if I went over and I had an audience that I'd built on Twitch, I think I could monetize more easily there. But I just don't know that I don't know that there's an audience for me on Twitch. And to make the thing is, like, to make the time and the effort to go over there and try and build the audience. I mean, it's just really hard when, like, I'm sweating trying to make it work over here. So, but there are a lot of things that I like about Twitch better. I do think live video is going to be a much more important thing in the YouTube world over the next year to 2 years. And that's part of the reason why I'm kind of focusing on it now. Like, I really like to do it. I like live better than I like edited videos for the most part. But I mean, I'm kind of at this inflection point where I grew to one plateau and then I plateaued, and now I'm like at the precipice of the next plateau, and I have to get over that hump, and I don't know what that's going to look like. So, if that makes any sense. Michael said, it's nerve-wracking to do opinion videos and discuss things like events and inform people on things like I did for the first time with the new iMacs and iPad, because you never know the responses. Well, I mean, after a while you do. I can't tell you. Did you guys know that I wear red glasses? Did you know that? Because it was pointed out to me in my iMac video many times that, like, I didn't like the iMac colors, but yet I wear red glasses. It's like, I don't wear iMacs on my face. Okay? Why should I have to like a color if in fact I don't, glasses and iMacs are not the same thing. That's a false dichotomy. For God's sake. Oh my. But yeah. but it is really stressful. Like when I first started doing Can You Trust, even though I wasn't doing those videos as like tear down pieces or gotcha pieces or anything like that, I was trying to do them like super honestly. Um, that was very stressful. Like, and having an anxiety problem in the first place, like it was a stressful thing to do. I like doing it. Um, but yeah, but it was very stressful. Uh, and you know, doing like more drama videos, you know, like tech drama, the way I did it a couple of years ago, that was stressful too. The problem with like clickbaity drama videos is that you can only be clickbaity drama like um, for a certain amount of time, and then you have to either like pitch, or you have to pitch yourself a different way, or you have. I mean, that wasn't my thing in the first place. Um, so yeah, I haven't seen the old man comments, but I get them all the time. I get a lot of okay boomer, which I mean, come on. Didn't these kids go to school? Don't they know what a anyway, maybe that makes me a boomer, like actually knowing what the definition of a baby boomer is. I don't know. I can't keep up with the kids these days. Aldo, I don't know. I don't know that that's true. I mean, I think everybody has their own tools, right? And so yeah, I everybody has their own tools. If you're young and you grew up in this like, see, one of the big differences between like say John Prosser and myself is that John is younger than me, and so he grew up in the culture that of the group of people that he's speaking to, right? And I don't necessarily connect that way. So the way that I connect with my audience, the way he connects with his audience, the way is different. Is different. So I saw that Rich was like trying to, like, some YouTuber is like trying to do something with an underage girl. I don't know. See, that's the thing. One thing that's different between Rich and myself is that Rich seems to really love it when there's like juicy drama happening, and I just feel bad for the state of humanity when stuff like that's happening. Um, yes, we are Gen X. Um, we're supposed to expect disappointment. That's how we're wired. C. Wayne says, never understood why boomers supposed to be insulting. Most boomers have their life in order, living quite happily, content in their accomplishments. Yeah, I mean, by the strict definition of it, like my mom is a baby boomer. She was born in like the 1943, right? So I mean, most boomers are retired, and a lot of them have already passed on. But the following generation, Generation X, as it were, the one that I'm actually a part of, is an interesting generation because we were the first generation that didn't have, well, we grew up with television and all that, and we grew up not necessarily in um we grew up not necessarily in the most stable of household situations, the most stable, uh, the most stable, you know, socio-political situations. So it's Generation X is a very different kind of a very different kind of thing. Oh, so 46 to 64. Okay, well, she just missed it. um, And Franklin, I mean, I know what you're saying, but strictly speaking, boomer is a generation of people that were born apparently between 1946 and 1964. I was born in 1971, so I'm not a boomer. You want Tim Cook to play Battlefield 6 on a new Apple gaming machine? Don't hold your breath, man. Don't hold your breath. That's the one thing that like Windows will never lose on that one. I mean, I could turn my Mac Pro into a gaming machine. Danny, good morning. Good to see you. Isn't it like you're in Toronto? You're like it's like 12:30 where you are. Why are you still asleep? Oh man. Apple TV. Do I have anything to say about the Apple TV and the calibration feature? I'm excited for the Apple TV, because it supports HDMI 2.1, and I mean my LG C9 supports 2.1. Not that there's really any content or really any way to take advantage of that right now, but it's future proof. Supposedly, I was Greg from Greg's Gadgets said that the graphics on the A12 chip that they're putting in the new one are not as powerful as the graphics that are in the current one. So I don't know. The Apple TV that's currently out, the 4K Apple TV is great. The calibration thing, I'll have to wait and see. I'll try it, but the thing is, like, I've never paid anybody to calibrate my TV for me. I've never bought a calibration tool and calibrated it myself. But I found that the more expensive TVs that I buy, like the OLEDs, the Sony that I have, even this TCL 6 series, which has the mini LEDs. This is an amazing TV. I'm doing a review on it right now. It just has my logo on it, but it's an amazing TV. It competes with the OLEDs for half the price. So very impressive. But I found that color accuracy on a lot of these TVs, at least to my eyes, is okay. It's pretty good. I don't futz with it too much. Less expensive TVs, yeah. And so Drone has had you've had your TVs calibrated. I probably would have done it, although there's like nobody in my area that does it that I've found. Like even our Best Buy doesn't do it. So I don't know. Maybe that's what I should do. Let me see. Michael says, I've heard the calibration thing will work on older Apple TVs as well. Just creating a profile for the Apple TV. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, because it's using the iPhone, right? It's using the iPhone. So if they have the same operating system, they should have the same features. There's nothing special hardware-wise. I think you're right, Michael. Unless it does have something to do with, why didn't they put a U1 chip in it? That's a good question, because it would be really nice to be able to, I mean, you can get your Apple AirPods Pro, Pro Max, etc. They hook up to your TV relatively easily, but it would be even more easy if they had the U1 in there. So Aldo says, I think during the reign of Cook, Apple just keeps churning out new stuff regardless of whether there is a real need for it. Do we really need yearly OS updates? I OS updates, I say yeah. Um, I like the fact that Apple updates their OS frequently. I like the fact both Mac OS and iOS. They're always bringing new features. They're always fine tuning things. So I like the fact that they're attentive that way, because I know from using Android devices for long periods of time, and also using Apple devices for long periods of time. Um, when you don't get Android updates for months and months and months and months, and you know that like the new version of it's out and everything, like there's nothing more frustrating than knowing that you can't use the most recent thing. Um, Whereas with Apple, if you have an Apple device and something new comes out for your device, you just go get it. It just or it gets it for you, or it doesn't get it for you, and it keeps reminding you that it hasn't gotten it, which is what my iPad does. Um, why doesn't Apple update their core apps more frequently? Um, do you mean like pages and that kind of thing, or do you mean like give me a little bit more of a definition? Um, because in terms of Final Cut and so Final Cut gets updates pretty frequently. They're not major updates, but it does get updates pretty frequently. And Logic Pro gets updates pretty frequently, but not major updates, although they got a major update last year and a major update this year. The great thing about Logic Pro, and so if you're somebody thinking about like, how do I invest in a digital audio workstation, a DAW program, DAW. The great thing about Logic Pro is it costs $300, $200, whatever it costs, which is a decent initial output. But once you buy it, you get all of you get all of the updates forever. So like I bought Logic Pro 10 when it came out, and so that's been 10 plus years ago, I think. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, and I've gotten all of the updates ever since then. And that when when a Pro Tools subscription costs $800 a year, I mean, there's Pro Tools is the professional grade DAW, but there's not really a huge difference between Pro Tools and a lot of the other stuff that's out there. A lot of people are making, hit records on Logic and hit records on Ableton Live and Studio One and all that kind of stuff. Like I actually got in touch with Presonus, who does like audio gear, and they had Studio One, the DAW, and they gave me a year pass to use Studio One and their new Sphere, like I kind of like network that they have. So you get everything from Studio One Pro, and then you get like their cloud stuff. So I'm trying out Studio One Pro, and I think it was Lauren. Yeah, Lauren was complaining about the background colors in Logic. Yeah, I'm tired of looking at that like light gray background. I'd love to be able to change it up. Studio One lets you do that. So Studio One, like Logic was the most intuitive app DAW that I used before I started looking at Studio One. Studio One just does some things intuitively that like once you do it that way and you go back to another program, you're like, why isn't this working? And then you realize like, oh, it doesn't do that. But wait a minute. Did you see that guy gaming on the new iMac? It was so funny. No, I didn't. What was he playing? Oh, Moomin has responded here. You have to wait for an OS update for their core apps. Android core apps are up. I see what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, so you're talking iOS, I'm assuming. The thing is, like, the core apps for iOS, like Mail and stuff like that. I mean, they've been around. Safari gets updated. Mail's been around forever. I mean, it's probably as stable as it's ever going to get. But I see what you're saying. Apple is allergic to gaming. Actually, you know that the gaming that I've done on Apple computers has been really pretty decent experience, but nobody, but they just don't develop, like companies don't develop for Apple. And that's just the way it is. I mean, and it's weird. Like I'm not any kind of a programmer at all, but Apple, like Mac OS is based on Linux, and I know you can game on Linux, so I don't quite understand where the disconnect occurs, but I'm sure it occurs for some reason. Yeah, the background colors, especially for the eyes, Logic Pro Studio 9, you could change the background colors. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to be able to have, especially now that like most of the screens are huge, right? You know, like I've got a 34-inch monitor here, and like a 34-inch monitor with like tons of white on it is just burns my eyeballs out. Aldo says, if there was a 32-inch iMac, I would consider it. Use the 32-inch monitor and can't go smaller. I'm spoiled. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I think there will be a 32-inch iMac. I think that we're going to, I think that the iMac that we see in the fall, or potentially at WWDC, although I doubt it, the iMac that we see in the fall will be a 32-inch iMac that has the same sort of like screen footprint as the 27. And so, yeah, I think we'll see that. When it'll probably be 6K if I'm thinking of the math right. Yates just nailed his knee on his desk. What kind of desk do you have, man? The white on blue. Oh, you mean for the I can change it. Hold on. Here, we'll do that. There we go. Oh, that's too orange. There we go. How's this? There we go. There we go. If Apple can make, wait a minute, I wanted this one. If Apple can make an SoC that's capable of 1080p gaming at a stable 60 frames per second and not charming, I mean, if the M1 chip is basically, you know, like a buffed up version of the A series chips, then I don't think they'd have any problem running most games at 1080p 60 frames. I don't know what how the capabilities of the graphics cards that are in those machines compare with the graphics cards that are in PCs, because it's a totally different structure. But yeah, I don't think they couldn't do it. I mean, imagine using a Mac Mini Pro, quote unquote, Mac Mini Pro with a high refresh rate monitor that runs games at 60 frames 1080p. That would be great. But they'd have to have the the games would have to be developed for the platform, and nobody does. So yeah, it's, if you got a 19-inch monitor and you're like injuring yourself on your desk, I think you might want to do some upgrades. Man, nothing like a cold latte. Yeah, Max Tech does a lot of really good things, and I'm glad to see that he has like come back and done really well, because he had a problem with his channel. Like, I think a channel got demonetized for some like bizarre, like some computer error kind of problem, and he like relaunched it or something like that. And he does, and I'm glad to see he's doing really well. And he does do great videos on like the technical abilities of each of these. Hey, my mom is here. Hi, Mom. Good morning, or good afternoon for you, I guess. Yeah. Do I think Apple will ever bring touchscreen to Mac OS? The thing is, like Logic Pro has touchscreen capability. You have to use an iPad to do it, but it does. So I don't know. I don't think they'll ever bring touchscreen to a Mac, though, because they have this whole thing about the iPad being an iPad and Mac being a Mac, and one is touchscreen and one is not. And it's just right now, we talked about this before. The new iPad Pro is a computer inside. Outside, it's a tablet that doesn't have all the features that a computer needs to have in order to work correctly. Michael says benchmarks say the M1 graphics outperforms the 1050 Ti or RX 560, so it should be able to handle 1080p 60 gaming, with the exceptions of gaming that, like Cyberpunk 2077 or whatever. So yeah, the majority of games, I would imagine it could do 1080 60. That's correct. So yeah. David 99, thank you for being here, man. Would I like a touchscreen Mac? No, I don't think so, because, well, for one thing, I have this really weird OCD thing about people touching the screen of my computer. My wife always points to the things and she touches the screen, and I'm like, yeah, don't do that. So and when I've had like Windows laptops that had touchscreens, I never used it. So yeah, I don't know. But I would love to have a touchscreen, like for audio work, having a touchscreen that you could put down like angled on the desk, and it would just be basically like there's a company called Slate that makes one that's like a screen that is basically a mixing desk. And so yeah, I would like to see one of those, but I don't think I need a touchscreen Mac at all. Yeah, those 4K 32-inch Samsungs are really nice, and you can. Here's what you got to watch out for. All right, Best Buy tips by Jason. Painfully honest Best Buy tips. You can almost always, well, maybe not now because the way that they stock things at Best Buy because of the pandemic is a little weird, but I have always found amazing deals on things like monitors, TVs, et cetera, at Best Buy. And I think most of that is because people's eyes are bigger than their rooms. So, yeah. So Michael says, I've used iOS or Mac OS on touchscreen. It's not designed for the size of the pads of your fingers. Same thing with iOS not being designed for the small input like a mouse. Yeah, although there was some talk when they redid all of the stuff for Big Sur that a lot of the ways that they updated the operating system were more conducive to the potential for a touchscreen. But as somebody said earlier, Joswiak said Mac OS and iOS will never merge. Which I don't know. I think that's a mistake. I understand the whole product hierarchy and stuff, but I just think that's a mistake. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, at this point too, like my screen is just barely arm's length away. You know, like I could lean out and touch it if I stretch just a little bit. And that's where ergonomically that's where your monitor is supposed to be. So in order to like use a touch screen on a desktop at least, it'd be got to pick up some of those Scepters from my workbench. Oh, you mean 20-inch Scepter monitor? I got a 20-inch Scepter monitor for the like I think it was like $70. And it's not I mean it's what you would expect for a 20-inch $70 monitor. It's not amazing, but it does have a VESA mount and it's okay. It's good for like a secondary screen. I have a 24-inch Dell gaming monitor that's out there with my PC, and I really like that. 24 inches, if you're going to be doing gaming, is a great size. Or if you have like a small desk space, you know, if you're going to be gaming or if you have a small desk space, 24 inches isn't bad. I don't want anybody to get the impression that you know I don't like a 24-inch monitor. I just don't know that. I just don't know that with the availability of 27 and now 32-inch monitors out there, that there are going to be a lot of people who want to buy a 24-inch iMac. I could be wrong. The Mac behind me does work. I haven't used it for a while. It runs OS 9, but it does work. So I can go on there and like use Pages and such, or whatever it was called back then. But it does work, yeah. Costco has a 32-inch 1080p 144 hertz monitor with G-Sync for $209. I don't know, man. That's a good price. That's a good price, and if it's 144 hertz, then it should be pretty smooth. And if it's got G-Sync, then all the better. So, yeah, Aldo, that's my question. I mean, I guess we'll see, and it could be that Apple once again defies all logic and makes a computer that it seems like no one would want that everybody buys. But yeah, I don't know. I do like the new iMac. I don't want people to get the impression that I don't like the design or anything like that. I think it's the right way to go. I wanted to see the squared off sides. I wanted to see more of a squared off design. I'm glad that the chin is smaller. I don't care that there's still a chin there, because I think if there was no chin on the new iMac, then it would look like an LED monitor and not really have like much Apple-esqueness. So I don't have a problem with that. But yeah, I like the new iMac. I just wanted a bigger one with a different chip in it that I could buy and use. that's what I wanted. Let's see. Reading. There's a 34-inch 1440p ultra wide. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the monitor that I'm using here is a Dell 34-inch. It's not 60 hertz. It's 75 hertz, I think. It's not a gaming monitor though. I have a 49-inch Samsung monitor back in my storage room there that was an amazing gaming monitor. I loved it, and it was great for productivity. But I tried to move it, and it broke. So there's that. I don't even know if I could get it fixed. It's just sitting back there now. Well, you go. I get this. I just looking at the new iMac, it looks like the chin is at least like 1/3 smaller than it was. Um, so it does look smaller. It could just be that it looks smaller because the computer itself is smaller, but I'm not sure. And Michael, I think you're probably right. The bigger iMacs will come with the 16-inch MacBook Pros, and I'm curious because they just build this as the new iMacs. They just build them as iMac, right? And so, is it possible that the newer iMacs that come will be iMac Pros, even though they just got rid of the old iMac Pro? It's possible. I think it's possible because I mean, if they bumped up the chip to something significantly faster and more powerful, it's quite possible that you can get a MacBook Pro and an iMac Pro, and yeah, I would be into that because, and hopefully it wouldn't be anything but silver and space gray. I'd love to see. You remember the jet black of the iPhone 7? I would love like a limited edition blackout jet black iMac. That would be so sexy, and it would get fingerprints all over it and everything else. But yeah, I would love that. I would love that. Yeah, if you're buying Apple renewed or refurbished from Apple, it's the best way that you can go, because they do go back through all of those machines and really refurbish them to brand new spec. Even buying an open box Mac at Best Buy or something like that, you still have the full manufacturer's warranty. You can still get Apple Care. You can still do everything. So I think buying an open box Mac is a better buy than buying any open box like PC laptop. Just because the quality control of PC laptops is not always as on point as Apple's is. And that's because, I mean, there's so many of them and they're made in so many different places. So, and as Michael says, yeah, the new iMacs are basically the MacBook Airs of iMacs. And I agree with that totally. In fact, like, I think in my video that I put out yesterday, I said that the MacBook, like, basically this new iMac is an iPad on a stand or a MacBook, with a separate keyboard. They're all basically the same. So you get to choose what form factor you want. But in my estimation, if you can get a 13-inch MacBook Pro with 512 gigabytes of storage for the same price as a iMac with 256 gigabytes of storage, then I would buy the 512 MacBook Pro and save $200. That's what I would do. You can always connect it to one monitor, not two. One. That's it. I'm just reading here. Yeah, I think that's Hugo's right. Apple replaces like the top and like basically the casing gets replaced. I remember hearing that as well. Michael says iPad Air, iPad Pro, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro. Yeah, iPhone Air Pro, iMac Air Pro. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess they kind of have that at this point anyway with the 12 and the Pro, but they don't. I mean, the Air thing is interesting because I mean, the MacBook Air was called the MacBook Air because it was at the time, excuse me, at the time so much thinner than any laptop ever had been. I mean, there's that famous moment when Steve Jobs pulled it out of a manila inner office envelope, right? Um, and so yeah, that and then they went with the Air with the iPads because the iPad Air was so much thinner than the original iPad. So Air has always been attached to thinness, which I guess would work with these new iMacs. Um, yeah, Hugo, that would be amazing. I mean, I don't know if I want to pay for. Um, where did your comment go? Anyway, Hugo just said. I think I accidentally hid Hugo's comment. Sorry. Oh yeah, it's still up here though. Mac Mini Pro with M1X and 64 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I don't know what Apple would charge you for 64 gigabytes of RAM. They probably wouldn't charge the same because it's all on the chip, but even 32 would be, I mean, because the rough math that people are doing these days is that 8 gigabytes of RAM on the M1 Max is like 16 on the Intel Max, and it just kind of goes up from there. So 16 is 32, 32 is 64. So I think that we'd be good with 32. But we're 12 seconds away from 2 hours. I told myself I was going to do 2 hours today, and I've done 2 hours of talking to you folks, which is always fun. I really do enjoy it. So yeah, but now I'm tired. I got to go like take a nap or something. Since according to my bed, I only slept 3.5 hours. Anyway, I'm gonna jump off, folks, but I'll be back. I might do a music stream either today or sometime this weekend. If you are not subscribed to my music channel, I believe it's what is my music channel? I'm such a professional. Yeah. What is my music channel? Jason T. Lewis. Yeah. Subscribe to Jason T. Lewis and check out my music stuff. I'm going to do some live stuff over there either later on today or sometime this weekend. I'm forcing myself to do it because I've been too lazy. Yeah, so Jason T. Lewis should get you there. I'm only 125 subscribers away from 1,000 on that channel, and I never upload there, so that's probably part of the reason I haven't hit 1,000 yet. But anyway, if you guys want to hear some music, go over there, hit subscribe. Otherwise, video tomorrow, maybe a video on Sunday. Anyway, lots of videos coming. I've got lots of videos finished. It's fun. Once again, you know me, Jason. Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time,